Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today and welcome to another Mass Effect Andromeda video. Today we are going to be focusing on the leveling system within this title and how it is drastically changed from the Mass Effect that we knew from the original trilogy. If you're not aware, Mass Effect Andromeda rids itself of the class system that was established throughout each of the first 3 games for a skill system that allows you to see everything the game has to offer in one playthrough. Now I'm sure you know what I'm getting to with all of this, but before I really dive into my opinion on all of this, I want to break down exactly how Mass Effect Andromeda's leveling system works. It starts off with selecting a profile. This should look very familiar to a lot of you guys out there, as we have the Soldier, Engineer, Adept, Sentinel, Vanguard, Infiltrator, and Explorer. What I'm going to do for starters is compare the Mass Effect 3 Engineer to the Mass Effect Andromeda Engineer. The reason we're using Mass Effect 3 is because it's obviously the most recent Mass Effect title, but anyway, we're going to be taking this information straight from the Mass Effect wiki. They say engineers are tech specialists, the most effective class at disabling the defense of the toughest enemies or incapacitating them to render them harmless. In combination with their weapons training, engineers have the unique ability to spawn combat drones that can harass or force enemies out of entrenched covered positions. The powers that the engineer class has are Incinerate, Overload, Cryoblast, Combat Drone, Sabotage, Sentry Turret, Tech Mastery, and Fitness. Now let's take a peek at the profile for the engineer in Mass Effect Andromeda. It's described as an expert in both offensive and defensive tech powers. This profile reconfigures Ryder's implant, enabling him to maintain constant control of a small combat drone, which assists and protects him in combat. Each profile also comes with bonuses which will tailor to the new skill system that I'll get into in a bit. But anyway, this engineer class has plus 20% all combo damage, plus 20% tech construct health, plus 20% tech construct health regen, plus 20% tech construct damage, and plus 20% tech restoration and defense. The combat drone's explanation is cut off, but I think I can finish it off for you guys. A small drone improves recharge rate for tech powers and self-destructs with an EMP pulse if enemies get, I'd imagine it says, too close, considering that it's described in the profile as a combat drone which assists and protects him in battle. For the sake of reference, the combat drone in Mass Effect 3 was deployed to stun targets as well as draw enemy fire, but it wasn't the main focal point of the entire engineer class. As I mentioned earlier, there were multiple abilities for the engineer to sift through, like every single class in the Mass Effect franchise. Up next are the skills, where once you enter this menu, you can see you have 3 folders enter, where they are combat, biotics, and tech, 3 pillars to each class within the Mass Effect franchise. Once Ryder enters the tech skill tree, we see a plethora of different abilities that they can access, such as Overload, Incinerate, Assault Turret, Cryobeam, Energy Drain. These all should look familiar to you. Here's where my worry sets in, as we select the Flamethrower tech power, and we can see that we can spend skill points on this Flamethrower ability and allow us to level it up, but these level ups do exactly what you'd imagine. It's just little damage boosts, just some recharge time decrease, nothing relatively special that makes these powers even more buffed as time goes on, aside from just damage. Yes, progression should mean more damage, but as I invest in the skill, it should do a little bit more than just that, something that should really make it different from all the other abilities in the game, because I decided to actually invest in that and make me question my decision, not think, this just offers more damage, maybe there's something else that really alters over time. Once Ryder assigns all of his skill points, we can see that the profile now levels up to rank 4, thus probably increasing the percentage of all those buffs I mentioned earlier, and possibly maybe at the end of it, but I'm not really confident based off the skills, unlock a new ability such as the combat drone, but something else on top of that. So Maddie, we see the combat drone from Mass Effect 3. It seems like the profile can be largely similar to the class established in Mass Effect 3. Why are you exactly concerned with the leveling system in this title? Buff up the player, get any skill you want no matter your build, don't have to start over. This all sounds awfully familiar, and it should, because we're going to be taking a look at the leveling system for both Fallout 4 and Skyrim. I define both their leveling systems as just okay. They removed really any specialty from your build, and by the end of the game, you were a god, and this seems to be the exact route Mass Effect Andromeda is taking. Yes, Mass Effect offers a freedom of choice within the story. It should only make sense that the gameplay does that, because the classes essentially, quote, limited the player, end quote, meaning that you could go through some of your playthrough and think, I don't like this class, I guess I gotta start over. Now for players like those, I do sympathize with you because I've been there before, but I think that some of the fun of experimenting is when you find that character, but also, most importantly, is yes, it offers replay value. This is not just an idea on paper, it is a fact that these different classes offer different builds, different ways to play the game. You can make a renegade engineer or a paragon soldier, something along those lines. Now that's essentially gone as you have all one build here. I'm well aware this may come off as an overreaction because of the fact that Mass Effect 3 also had these skills that you could go into and rank up until rank 6. My issue boils down to really the fact that these classes are gone, meaning you can use any weapon, any power, any class at any point in time, which is exciting on paper, but I feel it removes the element of one of the most powerful choices you can make in the beginning of the game before any of the story plays out. This puts even more pressure, in my opinion, on BioWare to write a good story with choices, because it seems like the consequence for choice in leveling up has been removed, because who cares, I'm gonna get it all anyway. I felt the same exact way with Fallout 4. While leveling up in Fallout 4, sure, you couldn't access certain perks based off your special skills, but you could level those up as well. In Fallout 1 and 2, the foundation of every single character was built upon the special stats system. Through there, you could access specific perks that not every single build could get. The same logic applies for Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Now I'm assuming you're starting to get a more clear picture as to why I'm concerned, because Fallout 4 removed that and it didn't go over well. The same foundation of the special stat system can be applied to Mass Effect's classes. Don't get me wrong, before the game came out I thought this is a great idea, but I've learned my lesson here that I don't really like when the game makes me a god. I like making the choices and having the pros and cons to my characters. If I think something's bad about my character, I know it's because there's another class out there that does what I want better, thus incentivizing me to jump into that character as soon as I finish the game. I don't see what's wrong with that personally, and I'm not trying to get on a rant here. I'm not attacking those who feel like, you know what, Matt, not everyone has the time to play the game multiple times. Once again, that's something I 100% understand, so this is a system that's good for those people, but for someone like me and many other gamers out there who like to have their choices matter, especially in the Mass Effect system where picking your class was one of the best moments in the game. It felt good to select that backstory, that profile, as well as the class you were going to be. This class system can also be potentially lore breaking, but I feel like I'm nitpicking when I bring up stuff like that just to further justify my point, but it definitely is worth tossing out there. Take for example that you start assigning biotic skills to your soldier profile. That doesn't really make much sense, does it? A better comparison would probably be Skyrim, where Skyrim had each of the skills you unlocked more as you used it more, and you would invest the perk ranks into the skills itself. That would thus make the skill a little bit more useful, but nothing that would really be game changing. Like I said, I'm excited for Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm sure that's hard to tell based off the way I've been criticizing the game before launch. I do need to see more, I admit that, and I will be going into this game with an open mind when it launches. But with all this rounded up, so far I'm not feeling too confident in the product BioWare is creating. For me personally, I'm thinking to myself, how exactly did it come up in a roundtable discussion where they thought, you know what guys, that Mass Effect class system that really no one complained about, we should get rid of that in exchange for something that really has of no value. The point of the Mass Effect Andromeda system is to experiment with multiple skills and stuff until you find exactly what fits you. And that is awesome because I like that. But once you find what fits you, you invest all your points in, you're done. After that, leveling up doesn't matter. When you select a certain class, it has you learn a play style. It makes investing in all those abilities instead something that really makes you question your character. Are you going to invest in skills that bump up your health as a soldier? Or are you going to invest in a power that increases damage against enemies who have armor? I think Mass Effect Andromeda's system could be compared to something along the lines actually of Dragon's Dogma, where you'd pick different vocations. One minute you're a ranger, the next minute you're a mage. It really can drastically change up, but sometimes your equipment would tailor to that build, as well as the skills and augments you were investing in, where it wouldn't really be that beneficial to turn tail and 180 on your build, but it was entirely possible and didn't take too long to adjust, where you'd be a strider 1 second and then I'd switch back to a mage, no problem whatsoever. I wanted to voice my concerns on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this topic in the comments down below, see what you guys are thinking. Is Mass Effect Andromeda system scaring you off a little bit because of how similar it is to Fallout 4, Skyrim as well, or is this something you're for? Like I said, I think most of us are going to be reserving our judgment until we get our hands on the game and then critiquing it more there, but it's just a concern I wanted to make sure I vocalized as the game quickly approaches. I feel even the launch period of the game will not tell the story on whether or not Mass Effect Andromeda's leveling system is a good change. Much like Fallout 4 and Skyrim, it took a little bit of digestion until you got to that second, third, and even fourth playthrough to really find out if the leveling system was arguably flawed and if you can construct different builds around them. Mass Effect Andromeda runs the same way, so we shall see in due time, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like part of the issue stems from the fear of linearity that is shared between both game developers and game players. When players hear it, they go, oh god, it's gonna be a corridor shooter, I'm not gonna be able to explore or do anything fun, screw that, I'm not playing that linear game. And in turn, developers get scared off because no one's gonna play their game. So if you've noticed nowadays, everyone's trying to make these open world, these free choice games where you can reverse anything you want in this one playthrough. And I think you could argue that Mass Effect's class system would be a quote linear design decision, and it seems like modern players just don't like the idea of being forced into choices and not being able to undo things. Me, I've always liked that, but perhaps it's because I grew up on different RPGs. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, the links are as always in the description down below. Check out sugarbomb.com, the place by Bethesda fans for Bethesda fans. Stay sexy, stay active, I love you all, peace.